Dangerfield, Dangerfield. Right there. Put some kids together. Don't actually do this or you get in trouble. I'm not suggesting you go and round up some children. But get some kids. Get one from one country, aged 2. Get one from another country, aged 4. Get one from another time. Pluck one from Victoriana. Put them all in a room. Watch them play effortlessly. It's more of a struggle for them not to play. It's going to be harder for you to stop them engaging in a cognitive, physical, emotional, social way. They're hungry for it. They're hungry for play. And it develops them on so many levels. It's everything to them. It is their learning. It makes of them a communal sponge. And as adults, we stop playing. And we should never, never stop playing. Julia Kristeva, the French tel quel, eternal recurrence, I think that is. She wrote for tel quel. It's a Nietzschean concept of eternal recurrence. And she said, poetic language is any language which threatens the limits of its own enclosure. A language which has the ability to transcend that which defines it, that which delimits it, that which keeps it in place. And I like to suggest adult play is a life lived poetically. A life lived which threatens the limits of its own enclosures. The ones it creates, the ones it transcends. The new ones it creates and the new one it transcends. Because a life without poetry, a life not lived poetically, is one without play. And man, are you making a machine of yourself. To an interesting time, when I was on my master's degree, there was this conversation came up, and someone was writing a paper on dance music or some shit, and they were talking about drum processors, drum machines. That was unnecessary. And they were saying how a lot of people don't like the sound, the aesthetics of drum machines, because they want the mistakes that humans make. They want that more organic thing. They want the human sound. They want a jazz drummer, all this stuff. And yet, wouldn't a drum machine be more human? Because a drum machine is a piece of technology, not of nature born. This is technology. This is of humans. This is man-made. This is ultimately human. When you hear that drum machine, I know they're better than that, but when you hear that, you're not missing out on the human element. It is just the human element. Strange kind of reversal, an ironic reversal there. And so what do people what were they really looking for? Well, I would suggest play. They want that sense of play that you get when humans interact, which you cannot get when technology interacts. Look at the genre of music, of dance music, techno. It's called techno. It's called technology. Listen to it. What does it sound like? The sound of machines. The sound of machines is the sound of humans without poetry, without play. It's an unpoetic existence. An unpoetic aesthetic. It's lost its playfulness. It's ordered, it's rigid, it's quantized, it's sequenced. Put those 4 or 5 kids in a room, music like that they are not making. The 20th century, with the advent of Freudian psychoanalysis, which goes back to Charcot, admittedly a bit earlier than that. But the explosion of the divided self, it was the century of self, really, the 20th century. We became aware of our how would you say that? We became aware of our unconscious pathologies. We got to step back. You know, when humans became conscious of consciousness, we became enlightened. We became metaphysical. We thought, therefore we were. Lax study that. Descartes' meditation that leads to the cogito ergo sum is a nonsense. There's a bit in it where he says, "Oh, well, I was thinking about saying that I think, therefore I am," but then it was like, well, what does think mean, and what does am think? I haven't got the time or the leisure to go into those questions that would go on forever. Nice one, Descartes. There was a kid at my school called Darren Cart. Yeah, Descartes. Oi, Descartes. Are you thinking again? Because you is. But in the 20th century, we became aware of our division. We became aware that we are two people in one. We are our conscious and our unconscious selves. And what people see of that is the product of the two playing with each other. And it was interesting, that last video I made, explaining one of my processes, how I can act out. Apart from an incredible amount of identification, I got more private messages off of the back of that last video than any other I'd done. Just people saying, yeah, that was me. Yeah, that could have been my life. Yeah, it was like looking in a mirror, which is always nice. It's nice to connect with people. But more so was people giving me advice on how to correct my behaviours, how to improve my life, how to progress, how to improve. And I think that comes from the 20th century. Theodor Adorno, the much hated Frankfurt School scholar, philosopher, he said about psychoanalysis, what is it? I mean, the translation's a bit dodged from the German. In psychoanalysis, only the exaggerations are true. It's a great point, because we need to be sure not to become perfect. We need to indulge our failures as much as our successes. We need to continue playing. Because we can improve ourselves so much. You know, a lovely analogy, stroke allegory, I like to think, is I remember the explosion of the home microcomputer and the idea that now these mainframes have come down to these tiny little machines. I mean, not quite as small as iPhones in 1980, but we were told how they would do so much more of our work. They would work for us. And yet, the reality is they just made us more efficient. We got more work done in less time. Thanks. So you need to be careful about improving yourself. You need to be careful about identifying your pathologies. You know, I spent, 15 years in and out of Narcotics Anonymous, and I've got a lot of time for that fellowship and a lot of respect for the people I met in it, and a lot of good friends who I still consider good friends today. But there's a thing about drug recovery that I noticed. That for a lot of addicts, they appear through that program to have two choices: spend their life on drugs or spend their life staying off them. And we need to be careful. We need to be careful how we treat our bad behaviours. You know, I know falling in love with prostitutes, I know obsessing about working girls has its problems. No one wants a hand covered in sticky honey and flies, but everyone, oh, it's just wonderful. Be sure to remember to play. Be sure to remember to live poetically, otherwise of your life a machine you might make. Let's do it.